Hey everyone, this is just the first video on my Livekit dashboard that I've created. My biggest problem was that I'm located in Australia. All the AI models and all the providers for voice AI are in America. So it takes about 250, 300 milliseconds for the data to go from Australia all the way over to America. And that's before any AI processing or anything like that. So I really wanted to look for, something that I could host locally. Livekit's been good, but it just becomes a bit cumbersome to always do the control, go in there and deal with code and programming files and stuff like that from a command prompt. It just takes a lot more time, compared to me going into retail and click, 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 and it does what I want, or cut and paste and those sort of things that you normally expect in a GUI. Basically, this is why I've created it. So I'll try not to make this video too long because I've added a lot into the dashboard already. I just want to, sort of go through it in sort of a quickish fashion to give you a bit of an overview. So basically, this is the login page. The URL can be anything that you want. That's all in the install file. So this is the analytics page. So this is the overview, just a general overview, total calls and all those sort of things that everybody expects. Calls and rooms. So rooms are still created through the live kit. So basically you call in, creates a room on the fly, adds the agent, adds the SIP trunk, and away you go. This is just basically the stats of the calls and the rooms. Latency, so this is a big thing I'm obviously focusing on. I want to get the latency as good as possible. So everything is focused around getting good latency from the AI models and also the server doing that as well. So optimization and everything like that is like a prime and like definitely up the high of the list. AI insights, so this is just the AI insights for every call gets done. So this is just a total summary of all of those. Agents, so how many agents you've got and what they're basically doing overall, how many calls each one has done. Media, so basically egress and recording calls, and where they're stored and how many calls you've got, etc., etc. So I've got like 70 stored in the cloud and 2 stored in the local recording. Telephony, how many SIP trunks, blah blah blah. Server stats was another big one that I had to do. So just to see how the load of the server's doing, I'm currently using EC2 on a medium server, so it's 2 virtual CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. This is basically just shows you a total. So at least here, 1 minute, 5 minute, 15-minute average of what the server's doing in total. And then I've localized it based on what the dashboard's using, Livekit's using, agents using, Redes for the actual database, and SIP and the recordings from the egress of what they're actually using. So at least this will show over a 24-hour period. Rooms is basically created on the fly, like I said before. So basically in here, if I make a phone call, I can refresh the page here, and then this would show it in the actual room as the call's happening. I can click on the room, and then I can go in there and I can see all its basically statistics on what it's doing live. Up the top right here, I've got all the different options. So how long it actually stays in the rooms area. So if I go 5 minutes, it'll actually, when I make a phone call and then I hang up, the room will stay here for that long. So at least it means I can go in and see what's going on with that actual live room. Egress or recording and storage. Everything on this server, on this dashboard, I've tried to do stateless. So I'm trying to do it lightweight, and I want it to talk to the actual API of the Livekit. I don't want to sort of modify things heavily and have this big database and massive downloads and all those things. So everything's about lightweight, optimized, and the dashboard talking to Livekit is in a simple manner. So local server, you can obviously store it directly on the server, but I've also added in AWS S3 and Google Cloud. So everything can be stored to there for all your recordings and call histories and all those things instead of storing local on the server. So the logic is that I can take a backup, create a new server, restore the backup, and then all my recordings are still saved off the actual system itself. So as default, it obviously is on local server. Here's the local server recording, so I've got 2 in there at the moment. I can play them, download them, upload them to S3 or whatever, or Google Cloud if I've selected that. And then here's all my cloud recordings. from here, I can go play. So it opens up a chat bot. I can hit play and it'll play my recording for that. I can also filter it, obviously. Call history. So call history is obviously every call that comes in creates a call history. I can filter it through here as well. Same thing as the storage. I can store it locally on redes only. It only stores 30 days because obviously if you've got a busy server, it's going to go really massive. And the whole point is actually keeping everything small and lightweight. So for permanent storage, AWS S3 or Google Cloud. In here as well, so the AI settings. So do I want, when the call comes in, to automatically do the generate summary and the AI overview, or do I want to do it manually? And then obviously I can set my model that I can actually use for it to do it. In here, so you can see here, so summaries is whether it's done this automatically or not, or whether I've done it manually. So obviously this purple's been done, this one hasn't. So if I go, say for example, into this one, it shows the calls, shows the agent that was used, shows the LLM, STT, and TTS that was used for this particular call, the recording that's linked to this actual call as well. The metrics over here is, how the reason for the hang up the call. So hang up is basically the AI doing it, how long the call's for, focusing on the latency again, what the latency was for the call. So like retail they've done their P50 and P90 and P99 stuff. I've added the same sort of data in there. So at least you can see at a visual thing what this call and how it actually went. Transcriptions, you can expand it. So this is the transcription of the call. If it does a tool, it'll show you in here. If it does a tool, it's in purple. So you'll see like one of these instead of being blue. So the call is green, agent's blue. Purple would be if a tool was used. And then handoff is if I've done a transfer. So in the agents, I've actually got it that you can transfer the call from agent to agent to limit basically the context window. So that's the transcriptions. Then I've got call summary. So this is what I was saying before, which gets done automatically, these two pages here. Or I can go into here and then select an actual one I want to use. So we can go, okay, we want to do SONET, go regenerate, and then it'll use that LLM to actually redo the summary and redo the information for that actual call. So here, so you've got the summary and the data that it's pulled out of there. Tools, most of these are working. The ones I'm working on at the moment are send email, send SMS. So instead of everything doing it through a webhook and it has to go through the N8N, it makes sense that it can at least send an email or send an SMS directly through the agent directly. I've got attended transfer, blind transfer working, hang-ups working, holds working. So if you want to put the call on hold when it transfers or those sort of things, I've got that all in here. So you can upload your own music, set the volume, and then to test, you could tell the agent to put you on hold. You'd hear the hold music, which then also led me to do the play audio. So at least you could play an audio file. So privacy disclaimer. If it gets to that point where you need to read a privacy disclaimer, the agent can just play a message, like play the actual recording. Get date and time obviously works, so the agent knows what the actual date and time and the time zone. So wherever you're located in the world, however your date format you want to do, this is what's sent to the agent. So you can go, okay, what's the time and date on Friday? It'll know based on the actual system's date. Collect DTMF is one other one that I'm working on as well, but by the time everyone's playing with this, all these sort of ones will work. All the ones that are coming soon, I haven't really focused on. It's more the ones that aren't coming soon, I'll make 100% sure they're working, because these are all ones that I need. Knowledge base, I haven't done that yet. I'm still umming and ahhing how I want to do it. I don't really know the best method yet. Do I use this method or do I use that method? So once I've finally worked out the best way I'm going to do it, I'll implement that and do all that. Might even do a post online on the school group to actually get people's opinions on the best way of doing it. One other thing I've got to mention on top right, everything I've done a help. So it summarizes what everything does on the page. Nothing annoys me more when I'm going into something and I don't really know what the button does, and you've got to go and look for a manual and everything. At least this way I can go click and then I can see exactly what it's talking about. agents. So these are the agents where you can add. I can obviously stop them, start them, edit them. I can do duplicate them of them. I can download them as a saved file. I can view the code for each one. I can view the logs for each one, or obviously delete it. The health is based on if you try and load a file and you haven't got an API key installed, stuff like that. This will tell you in the health. If I go into a file, so initial greeting, this is the welcome. Hi, how are you doing? Those sort of bits and pieces. System prompt, so this is just a system prompt like every other AI service. Knowledge base, I've added in basic knowledge base, which is at the end of the prompting. It's just for your main stuff. So if you want to know addresses and phone numbers and stuff like that of the agent, I've made up some random details. But yeah, the knowledge base, at least the agent can know it instantly because it's part of the actual context. Tool usage, so this is where you would put the instructions for the tool usage, when to use it, when not to use it, blah, blah. And obviously the tool gets embedded into the agent anyway. But I personally prefer to do a tool usage so I can tell the agent how to use it and why it happens and those sort of things. Model-wise, I've done it with two. So geo-located is LLMs and features that you can get onshore. So for me in Australia, so geo-located, I can get Google 2, 2.5, and 3 Flash, all is direct. But see here, the Google 3 Flash is global. So that's actually working out of Singapore. It doesn't work out of Australia, where I can use 2 and 2.5, and that works out of Australia. So obviously it's a lot quicker. Where the normal Google, these are just using the normal LLMs, APIs, which go to America. OpenAI, same thing. Bedrock, this is again AWS Bedrock's in Sydney. So for me, it's local, makes a massive difference in speed. So some of these are APAC, so they go out of Singapore or out of another thing. So that's why I've done them as APAC. And then you've got your models that you can actually get out of the country itself. So the Sonet and the Haiku one, I can get regional out of Sydney. So we're talking, 25, 30 seconds, milliseconds, which is pretty awesome. It's also so fast that I've actually been able to do Sonet and use its way superior brain capacity than doing some of the other faster models. LLM temperature, same as every other agent. The LLM temperature is basically how much creativity it's got. Speech to text, same thing as above. Main one I've been using and I'm really focusing on is DeepGram Flux. It's amazing, especially for collection of information like email addresses, phone numbers. It's smart enough to basically, when you ask for the email address, you can go like Peter dot wait for ages, and then say the next part of the game, Chris at, and then wait for 10 seconds, and it'll just sit there and stay silent. Then you can say the .com.au, and then it'll basically go, okay, and then move on from there. So it's actually, the Flux is awesome. It's also DeepGram caches it around the world. So even though I'm in Australia, it's crazy fast as well. But I've also 11 Labs. 11 Labs is not bad. The 150 milliseconds is based if you're in Australia. It's awesome, but it's it's still a bit far for me from Australia. It's not fast enough. So for me, I'd either stick to the Google ones that are locally stored or DeepGram because that's awesome. Same with the TTSs, done the same thing. Main ones like Cartesia 11 Labs seems to be good for, even though it's going overseas, they seem to have really good routes and caching. I've got Google in there as well anyway, so I can do onshore voices if it's really important. Otherwise, I've got all the DeepGram voices and stuff like that in there as well. But yeah, anything anybody needs as far as all this stuff is super easy to add in and take it away. Advanced features for the agent, what language does the actual model want to use? Custom vocab. For Flux, when you use Flux, there's certain other special rules. So in voice activity controls, so obviously voice activity controls super important on a voice AI. You can also do turn detector. I've integrated all that as well. Turn detectors, the new model's good, like it's way better than a lot of other voice AI providers out there. But with Flux, you've got your own Flux options, and the flux is just second to none. It's amazing. So that's what I've been using. When you do flux and I save it and I come back in here, all the flux options will show as well, which are all going to be in orange. So that'll do all the specific flux-based settings. Resource limits for the actual agent, so you can set those as well. Some people have said in the past, oh, it's better to have everybody, like have them all in a Docker container. I disagree. I reckon you're better off having all the agents, like I've containerized all the services instead, because otherwise you've got one agent, and yeah, that could have all the resources, and then you get the call for the next one and it doesn't have enough. So I reckon you're just better off, like you've got to obviously restrict it, but on an agent by agent level, I don't reckon it's the right way to do it. In here too, so for transfer between agents, so transfer to another agent, I've done that, so you can select your other agent. Do you want the full conversation to basically send as the context? So when it goes to the new agent, does the full conversation go across? Does a summary of the conversation go across, or no context at all? So it's a completely new chat. But if you've already given your name and address and those things in the first agent, at least if you give a summary, it's got all those most important things. Announce transfer to the agent. So when I transfer to the new thing, do I want it to actually say, oh, transferring you now, those sort of things? Sign off prompt, you could put that in there as well. When to transfer, so like when do I actually transfer the call? So in here I've got transfer asks about billing, invoice, or payment. So the second I start asking about that, it'll transfer me to the other agent. I can add, different transfers, so multiple transfers as well. I can add as many as I want. So have 5 agents and transfers it on when it needs to. Data extraction data. So these are the data that I specifically want to extract from the agent. And then eventually I'll have this where we can send it as an email and those sort of things. So it doesn't always need to go to N8N. And when I actually go and save an agent, it'll automatically restart it for me anyway. So if I go into here, go deepgram. So you'll see when I go update, it restarts the agent, and then it'll start running again, so we're good to go. Outbound SIP trunks are obviously in here. Here's your outbound SIP trunks, inbound SIP trunks. So in here, I can set username and passwords, or I can accept it from only a specific IP address. Personally, I do all the firewalling at the AWS end. So no SIP trunk or no SIP data from 5060 and those sort of standard ports will come from any other server but our SIP trunk. Dispatch rule basically links your inbound or outbound agent, your inbound or outbound SIP trunk to an agent. So in here, this is where I physically link it to an agent. Which agent do I want that SIP trunk to be connected to? I've also added in the auto record option. So if you select auto record in here, every call will be recorded instead of you manually doing it. Phone numbers. So this gives you a list of all the phone numbers that you've assigned in the inbound SIP trunk. So you can have as many as those. So that's an outbound one, inbound one. Settings. There's a whole bunch of these. I won't go through them all in details. The main thing is obviously I can restart resources, so I can restart the dashboard, restart the agent worker. That's probably the most common things. I've added manage system resources as well. So at least in here I can go, okay, the dashboard's using this much RAM. I want to assign it, how much I want it to use and how much I don't want it to use of CPU and RAM. So memory restrictions based on each service. You can also restart them in here as well. So if you need to restart the dashboard or the Livekit server or whatever, you can redo it all in here as well. System update. So if there's a system update to the dashboard, hit this. It'll obviously tell you if there's a new version and you can upgrade to it. Time and date. So this is the server's time and date that it actually uses. What time zone you want the server to use, what NTP server you want it to update automatically with. Licensing for the dashboard. So this is where the licensing details are. You basically got to enter in your valid email address, and then based on that valid email address and your machine ID, it'll either accept it or won't accept it. So obviously I need everybody's email address first. Security, you can do two-factor. So instead of just basic username and password, you can do two-factor authentication to log in. Logos, so obviously the aim is to, for analytics and those sort of things, to integrate like Voice Wrapper and Vapify and all those ones that a client can log in with white labeling, and they can see the analytics and download them and see call history and all those things for a specific agent. The dashboard will basically do that directly. That's the aim. So, you obviously want your personal logo in there, so when the client logs in, they see your logo. API keys. So this is where you store all your API keys. Google Cloud uses JSON. Of course, because they like to make it nice and hard for everyone. You set your regions and stuff that you want for your LLMs and the likes. Cloud storage, so this is where you set up the S3 and the Google Cloud Services buckets and stuff like that, and also what region you want the stuff to stored in. Obviously, if you don't have an API key, configured would not be configured, and then it'd be grayed out in the actual agent. Dependencies, so obviously everything Livekit's based off plugins and dependencies and stuff like that. So all the SDKs are in here with the latest versions. There's two options. You can either install them temporary, so if I reboot the server, then it's not there anymore, or I can install it permanently. So it just depends on how it installs on the server. So if you just want to play with one but don't actually want to keep it permanently, you can do temporary. In here, if I go check updates, basically checks through my dependencies, and then if there's any updates. So there's 3 packages updating. So there's a new version of the 11 Labs one. There's a new one of the Livekit protocol. One big thing here with Livekit is it's just because it's the latest version doesn't mean it's better. So before everybody rushes off and does updates, you're better off making sure, I'm currently running this. Does 112 do what I want it to do? Does it break LAMs? Does it break, certain things? So, don't always just go into here and go, oh, there's a new version, bang, 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 and expect it all to be great. Because sometimes you could go upgrade 11 labs and now suddenly something else is broken. So it's just one of those sort of things. Like here, some packages like Botto 3 and those sort of ones, there's issues with them at the moment with the latest versions of the turn detectors and those sort of things. So so just be aware of that just because there's a new update, don't rush out and do it. These are all the plugins that you've got installed. So this will show me what version I've got, whether I've got it installed. I can obviously delete it if I ever wanted to. And then the same here will show me if there's updates. System logs. So obviously the whole idea of the dashboard is not going into SSH all the time. So this will show me the dashboard logs. If I've got issues and I want to go, cut and paste it into the LM, I've got copy. Livekit server, if I want to see what the Livekit server's doing. SIP trunks, and then egress of the saving and stuff like that. So if you're having issues with call savings or something like that, obviously at least you've got the system logs without going in SSH. Also, I've added in sub-users. So the one that authenticates on the system is obviously the main one, which is what everybody's going to be using. Then you can add in sub-users. So your sub-users can log onto the system. And then I can come into here and I can actually see what they can and can't see. So the ID being like the customer access one. If I add one of those in, see here, so I've just done it so they can view, so they can come in and view the call recordings and download them. They can see the call history. They can see the agents, but they can't physically change anything in the agents. So if I log out and then log back in as a customer, you will see that. So in here, I can see the agents, but all the reset, edit, and all those buttons aren't there. So they can see the agents that I've told the system that it can see. They can go in and see the analytics of those 2 agents. They can see the live calls in and out of those 2 agents. They can see the recording. So they come down here, they can only see the recordings of the agents that they've got access to. And the same with the call history. They can only see the agents that they've got access to. Phone numbers, you can assign them to phone numbers too. So if a phone number is for a particular client, you can assign that number to them. It just means they get access to everything that they've got. Obviously, change password here is an option. Then I log back in as the admin, and then I can see whatever I want. Back to settings. The analytics page, as some of it does it instant, there's a couple of second delay, but I made that decision to just live with that because I would prefer the dashboard's a little bit slow, but Livekit's fast, and the physical calls are fast. That's what I was more prioritizing. So yeah, so this is the, in here, I can reset the password, I can delete them, all those sort of things for the sub agents or the sub users, sorry. System resources I already went through. If there's any settings for analytics, so I've got a random price in here. So you can go in here and you can go, okay, the LLM price is this, so it'll just display in the analytics page what the total cost is. And notes is just things that I've added in over time, which is important. So like deep like flux, so there's some rules based on that, what works and what doesn't work. So keywords, key terms are not supported, or they are supported, or little things like that. Or each time I do a version, what I'm actually adding or removing, just to keep everyone up to date on the same page of what's going on. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. So I think that's sort of, this video is long enough. Before I go, yeah, so these are the Flux settings I was talking about. So I've changed it to the Flux agent, to the Flux SPTT. And then these are my specific Flux settings. So when I've got the Flux on, I can't use standard turn detector. Not that you would want to anyway, because the Flux one's heaps better. And then these are all the specific settings. So I've put recommendations of what the settings should be to start off with, but then you can go from there as you move forward. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I've added loads of things, but yeah, I'm still going to push further as we move forward, because this is be a dashboard that I'm using every day, and all my clients will end up getting moved over to this. I've got a couple working through it, but yeah, eventually every single one of them will move. And then yeah, I just think it'd be beneficial for other people as well in the same situation as me. One last thing, yeah, so in here in analytics, I can even export. So any of this data that's in here for the clients that come in here, they can export their data as well. And I think that pretty much summarizes it, and this video is long enough. Thank you. See you next time.